So as part of the NieR 10th anniversary, not only did we get an announcement of a enhanced version for NieR Replicant coming to PlayStation 4, PC and Xbox, but we also got the announcement of a brand new NieR game titled NieR Reincarnation. The trailers we've seen so far, both the teaser trailer with certain imagery and messages in it, as well as the gameplay preview trailer, have gotten us all speculating and wondering what the story could be about. Could this be about any characters pertaining to the original or sequel NieR game, or its own unique story featuring brand new characters from the game? How's it going everyone? Tazen here, and today I'm going to go into one theory that I think this story could revolve around, specifically where it takes place, when it takes place, and with whom the story takes place. Now, firstly, I want to note to anyone watching this is definitely going to cover spoilers because it's something that's going to involve talking about a lot of pivotal things that happen in NieR's story. So if you haven't beaten the game, I really strongly suggest you don't continue watching this. If you do wish to continue watching this without having known the story, that is up to you, but even so, I would still recommend clicking away, just because this is a theory that requires me to talk about a lot of those things. So with that out the way, let's get right into this. So I've been thinking about this quite some time since the very first teaser trailer, and a lot of this is mostly because of one, not only what the female character looks like, but also again the words that we saw pop up in that teaser trailer. So the one character I mentioned when I reacted to the first trailer for the game was Kainé. One, when salvation popped up on the screen, that's very notable to not only a theme and story representation of Kainé, but it was also reflected in the song titled Kainé Salvation. So going into this one theory of mine, just specifically being if this game is in fact about Kainé, and that is actually, this game might in fact revolve one not only around Kainé, but not actually as her as a child, but rather during the 5-year time skip in the middle of the original game when Kainé is entrapped in stone. So the reason I believe this is all possible, firstly just going off the appearances of the female young character we've seen in the trailers. One, the young girl looks slightly like a much younger Kainé in appearance, particularly in her hair color and the dress that she's wearing. But she also appears to have some form of bandages on her. Now, it is unclear whether these are bandages or just some parts of her robe, but if they are representative of some bandages, this could actually be reflective of this taking place in Kainé's story after Tyrion, the Shade, has entered her body. So that means this could take place more so during the incarnation of Kainé we know from the original NieR game. Now going on to the sort of supernatural floating character we've seen, this could also be in reference to and actually be Tyrion himself. So my reasonings being, given Tyrion exists only as a soul without his own body, which was actually destroyed more than 1,000 years before the actual main events of the original NieR game, this could actually be how Tyrion manifests himself inside Kainé's mind, or the place their consciousnesses are trapped in during the part when Kainé and Tyrion are entrapped in stone. So the fact that there's also cloth draped over this character could also represent a ghost-like reference to the floating spirit or soul of Tyrion, and the actual body being that of Kainé's. But again, given they're both entrapped in stone during this part of the game, it could be that their consciousnesses are in some form of dream-like state, or even in some form of alternate or suspended reality, given that there's actual form of magic trapping them. Now going on to what the title NieR Reincarnation suggests about this possibility as a story is that while trapped in stone, the title Reincarnation could refer to Kainé's consciousness or subconsciousness uncovering and exploring parts of the forgotten memories of her replicant body's previous incarnations. So given her replicant body began gaining consciousness without its soul several hundred years before the main events of NieR, this could be the only time in Kainé's story where she's actually able to encounter those memories from her previous reincarnations in some form of, sort of imagery and other stuff going on, given this may taking place in her mind. Now reasons being because every time the replicant body is taken back to the Forest of Myth and essentially rebooted, undergoing maintenance so that the body is able to regrow and age and again maintain itself as a vessel for the soul when it's safe for the soul to actually merge back to the body. The actual memories of every sort of incarnation of the replicant's body is somewhat lost or sort of gone into some form of cycle that is still not so well known in the game. But we do know from the original game that there was one point where NieR and another character were interacting, and they actually did have some form of deja vu or vague recollection of having met each other before and being in this situation. So the memories do seem to exist there in some capacity. And while entrapped in stone, this could be that time where, again, she's actually going through some of the memories of her different reincarnations. Furthermore, in the actual name reincarnation, the two letters in are actually highlighted or encased in some form of brackets. And also in the name Kainé, it's also got the two letters in next to each other. Again, could be some little reference there. And then lastly, with the word in, it could actually be a reference to Kainé being trapped in stone and or these events taking place in her mind. And then thirdly, going on to the words and sentence that were referenced throughout the original teaser trailer for this game. So the first word was memories. Now this word could represent that Kainé could be going through memories of her childhood, which could be why she appears as a young child. And at the same time, during her release from stone in the main game, she reflects on her memories as a child. So maybe that was brought about from the story that's going to be told in this game. The second word was longing. So this word could be us playing through her diving into imagery of her memories about longing, because of how she was actually isolated from others due to her being a hermaphrodite, which ultimately led her to solitude from her town during her upbringing with her grandmother, basically until she met NieR, Grimoire Weiss and Emil. And this leads on to the next word, solitude. So this word could reference her solitude growing up, but also her solitude while trapped in stone. Again, which is why the large city-like structures we've seen in the game appear to be empty of other people. This could also be sort of some imagery or reflectance of what's going on. She's trapped in a place in her mind, so of course there could be no one else there other than her and Tyrion. And this whole part about solitude also leads into the final sentence we saw in the actual game, which says, "That is the place they call the cage." So this sentence could be a direct reference to being entrapped together in stone by Emil's massive particles, representing a cage in a form. And then specifically where it says they call the cage, it could be what Kainé and Tyrion call the cage, given there's two of them together, especially given they were trapped there for about 5 years, which is a very long time. But at the same time, given there are other people in the world who have been trapped in stone by Emil's magical powers, it's possible that this sort of realm or sort of place is actually somewhere where the consciousnesses or the minds of all the people trapped in stone actually go to. So when it says they call the cage, it could be something that is everyone who's trapped in stone referencing as the cage, some form of world where they're trapped. And furthermore, we know not only Kainé and Tyrion were trapped in stone by some form of magical energy by Emil, but also that they were not dead, rather in suspended animation, as we saw when Kainé and Tyrion were released from this cage later on by Emil's power. But for all the other people that have been trapped in stone, and potentially for much longer, they could all still be stuck in this form of reality, whether it's something that all the people trapped in stone share, or it's something that, again, this is just more so referring to that Kainé and Tyrion call it the cage. And then the last word we saw in this trailer before we got that final sentence was salvation. So this word could be a direct reference to the song Kainé Salvation, which was also the song used for the NieR Replicant announcement trailer. But at the same time, salvation also represents part of Kainé's story. One, her being released from that frozen prison for 5 years, and we got Kainé's salvation. And again, at the same time, her being united with NieR, Emil and Grimoire Weiss, that was the part of her life when she actually felt salvation from her loneliness and solitude throughout most of her life, due to the way that she was ostracized and excluded in her own town due to her genetic and physical characteristics of both male and female-like attributes. So because of this could also all be a reflection of everything going on with this theory. Now again, this is just one theory, and you know, there are lots of different things linking to lots of different things basically. And in regards to whether this is all going to be about Kainé, we don't know, because Yoko Taro did actually release a tweet saying this is not a spin-off game, but rather a brand new installment. So that could suggest that this may have nothing to do with Kainé or any of the other characters, and maybe some of the character designs that we've seen for these two characters, or more so for the little girl, could just be more of, you know, some form of spiritual references to Kainé, but not having anything to do with her per se. But at the same time, I think if this is about Kainé, like many people are thinking, I think this is the perfect place it could fit in, where it could explain this form of creature that's actually with the character, and at the same time why she appears young. But again, this also not sort of matching up with what we've known of Kainé's childhood as told through the original game, where she was living with her grandma in a village in the area. We never saw any of these massive sort of city-like structures that she could be in, and also these city-like structures that are reminiscent of anything in the current world in NieR at the time, given that, you know, most of the sort of city structures we know of in the game were actually structures that exist currently in our own world, because it's mostly the ruins of everything that existed from the 21st century, and these things look far greater and far different. You know, they do have some elements of like what we see in the city of Facade, but again in skyscrapers and stuff. So who knows what is going on there, especially with some form of floating fish we've seen. So again, this could all be stuff going on in Kainé's mind alongside Turin while they're trapped together in that cage for 5 years. So anyways, I'll leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts below. I've heard some other theories about whether this could be something more going on to the part of ending E, involving NieR and different reincarnation things going on with that part of the story. And also, this could also maybe have something to do with Yona, and also when her soul and replicant body were actually trying to be merged together by NieR, and maybe this could be sort of the adventure of both the consciousness of replicant Yona and the soul of the original Yona, and maybe that's why towards the end of the game that you actually see that interaction where Yona's soul actually acknowledges and can tell that there is another consciousness, another mind that exists of Yona that's not her own, but rather that of the replicants. Anyways, until the next video, stay spot on.